Now we'll move to our fourth speakers or presentations in the session one. It will be given by Dr. Mostafa Taoumi. He's a senior expert at the European GCC Clean Energy Network, and he's a former regional officer for the MENA at IRENA. He will talk to us about the clean energy in cities, what are the challenges and the opportunities. Dr. Mustafa, we are glad to have you with us here in this event. And, the floor is yours. You can start your presentation.
Thank you very much, Engineer Salim. Thank you for the invitation. I'm pleased for the time with our colleague. Just a minute, let me share my screen. So, as mentioned by Engineer Salim, I will try to address the clean energy in cities. What are the challenges and what are the opportunities? So in cities, and particularly in Arab
Dr. Mustafa?
Is maybe also an introduction. We have to now. Yes.
I don't know if you have stable internet connections, because in the sound, I don't think, I'm not sure if it is from your side or my side. Engineer Mohammed, is the connection fine? Do you hear it very well? Yes, maybe from my side the problem. You can start over.
Dr. Salim, I'm facing the same problem. I couldn't hear Dr. Mustafa.
Dr. Mustafa, yes, yeah, you can start again, but make sure that the internet connection is stable with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, just to to introduce you, the topic of clean energy in cities, we have to remember that the Paris Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals are the foundation for global effort to address climate change. So the purpose is to challenge states, regions, but also cities. As you can see in this graphic, cities and local action combined with energy transition is two of the main pillars of this Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have to fix our, attention to those, key pillars. And urban areas account for more than half the world population, as well as 65% of the global energy demand. And also 70% of the emissions come from cities. Cities in emerging economies with population growth about 2% per year will account for 70% of global growth in energy use up to 2030. It's very challenging, and we have to be prepared for this. So cities need to take immediate actions to meet those challenges, tackle all the obstacles for the energy needs, but also for the healthy, the living environment, are also fighting poverty, avoiding those catastrophic climate change. So before going to the solutions, what we can do in cities, we have to know what happened in cities. What is the usage of energy? As we can see here in region from home, cities that they have high population density, we can reduce substantially the energy intensity, and in hot climate particularly, and we have to plan and also to manage our cities to become high density. So then we can combine the effort from all the actors and also introduce those smart technologies and also integrated solutions. So Also, we have to know what are the main sectors that are consuming energy. And this in this graphic, it's very, I think it's very important to see also the differences between the regions, because we have high income countries and we have the middle income countries and also the poor countries. But in general, those three sectors, you have the industry, buildings, transport, are the main consumers of energy in cities. And it's differ, for example, from the high income countries, the building sector is the main consumer. In Asia, for example, in China, they have heavy industry, so they are consuming a lot of energy. And this is, I think, for the strategists, the planners, they have to take into consideration this, because you have to focus on the main sector that consuming a lot, and you have to be efficient also in this. So the priority actions for clean energy in cities, I think it's very important to point out this, is to integrate those clean energy in the building and the industry sector. For the transport, I think the colleagues already tackled this, combined with smart cities, and we have also to promote the sustainable option for transport, creating smart integrated urban energy system. So I'm focusing on the building sector. And the Middle East, for example, about 50 to 70% of energy is consumed in buildings in a city. In the EU, buildings are responsible also for 40% of the energy consumption and 36% of the emissions. So green buildings integrated with renewables and energy efficiency measures or system can save about 30 to 40% conventional energy use. And we will see all the solutions and the technology that we can use. In this graphic, just to highlight that energy efficiency and renewables can reduce up to 90% of the CO2, combine all those technologies together in all the sectors. And the building, you can see here in the buildings, they can also reduce substantially, the CO2 emissions. So renewables energy, they have a lot of advantages. They can help meet rising domestic demand, reduce CO2 emissions. But for the GCC countries, for example, for the fossil fuels producers, we can cite, for example, they can free the hydrocarbon resources for sale at a market price, and that can generate value at high margin inputs into petrochemical industries, for example. It's modular, it's flexible, so we can use of technologies like solar power generation in cities and offsite. We have the solar water heaters, we have the rooftop and others, lighting and also pumping technologies. For the solar rooftop, I think it's very important also to mention this. If we install on the roof, so we can save land, and if we don't have land in cities, so we can use our roofs. So electricity generation can be also fed in the grid, and the utility can gain also from this. We're saving a lot of money also on building a new power plant. We can use net metering approach or the feed-in tariff. There's plenty of options. For example, just to give you here a concrete example, in a city in Colorado, in San Antonio, they have in this about the peak load about 448 megawatt, the equivalent of if we compare with a gas turbine plant, we can save around 269 million of US dollars. Huge, because it's roughly a 500 megawatt power plant. So it is very important also to see all those possibilities and not be afraid about introducing the solar rooftop, because it's a huge market and it can create also jobs and create things. For the energy efficiency aspect, we have plenty of options. For example, in the GCC, we have to tackle high efficiency AC. We have also to isolate the walls, the roof insulation, high efficiency lighting, and others, measures and technologies. But for a building to be considered high energy efficient, it should not only comply with building regulation or building codes, but should have also improved energy performance and use in clean energy resources. That was mentioned in many reports of the UN and also with the Paris Agreement, that we have to combine all those technology, energy efficiency with renewable energy. Why and how we can do it? It's very easy to understand. So we have to introduce the renewables, but we have to start with energy efficiency first, because inefficient building, it will require, a huge investment. So for the solar rooftop, and because we have inefficient equipment. So that is, I think, very important also to highlight. So many countries, they started, those programs called net zero energy buildings, combine, energy efficiency and renewables. And technically, I think we have those options, and we have also to fix the right mix of energy efficiency measure, because in a building, we cannot reach all the time the zero net energy building, because if it's a old building, so if we do a retrofit, so it will be difficult, to reach this zero. So we have to try to approach the zero. But in the new buildings, that is, I think, the role of architect, engineers, that they can do a lot of effort to design, efficient buildings with new material, with new concept orientation, and taking into account that they can introduce also solar energy. We have to see also the long-term vision, because it's very costly, and we have to invest. And not in, in a few years, but we have to invest in 10, 20 years. And for deep renovation, as I said, for retrofits, we have a variety of measures, and we have to optimize this. And the big data and knowledge management, that is very important, because building, we can, gather a lot of information from those smart devices, some new concept of collecting data, so that can also improve the efficiency, but we can learn from our mistakes and improve with time. But we have to store this data, and we have to analyze it. We have also to go beyond that, and as I mentioned, for the high density cities, we can, for example, use those district solutions, integrated solutions for heating, for cooling, so we can build this network. And we have, instead of having those, personal units, we can have, a shared or community system for storage, for cooling, for heating, and that can, save a lot of money and be more efficient. It has been introduced in Dubai and in other cities, and it works very well. The cost is a little bit high, but with time, with more clients, the cost will go down. The interaction, yes, it's very important to have this smart technology, the e-storage, the smart grid, e-mobility, smart buildings, all those things we can introduce in those new cities or new buildings, as mentioned by Dr. Khraibet in Kuwait. They are improving, and they are doing a lot of effort. Just to show an example, like a study from Germany, for example, it has a retrofit, program. So they added or they installed the solar rooftop, as we can see here, and they isolated, the walls and also the roofs. and also the glasses. So that's, I think, they reduce by a factor of 10 the energy consumption. It's very important. It was, I think, in one of the projects that have been selected by the EU as an innovative project. It's located in Frankfurt in Germany. So that is a retrofit and in the framework of the renovation wave that the Green Deal, the EU Green Deal is now promoting. But there is some challenges. Of course, every strategy, every policy, they have the challenge because in some countries in our Arab region, we have the electricity tariffs, subsidies, because we have low electricity tariffs. So it's very difficult to have, those competitive renewable energy costs. The government, utilities, developers, consumers, building owners, all those stakeholders together, how to manage all those actors and have, a clear vision and one objective. So that need, a lot of effort to combine those actors in one platform or in one table and discuss all those challenges together and, came up with a solution. Market structured around the single buyer model. We have the one utility and one regulators. We don't have, an open market like in Europe, for example. That's limit a little bit the introduction of renewables because we have to wait for the utility to come up with the projects. And other countries, they have an open market, so the developers can came with new projects, with new ideas, and they can also suggest those projects to the utility or to the regulator. Financing scheme, that is also one of the challenges is I am a building owner, but I don't have enough money to invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency measures. So I have to look for this money, maybe in banks, but unfortunately banks, commercial banks, they are not ready and they are not confident to those technologies. And now government and authorities have to introduce this and not oblige, but they can suggest or recommend or introduce some new formulas, financing scheme, have a green fund that can finance those projects. Integrating renewables in building is possible, but we have also to ensure a follow-up and the monitoring throughout the implementation phase because it is costly, as I said. So you have to be careful with all the measures and also the new concept that the engineers and technicians have to implement in the ground. In the policy side, I think it's also important to point out that for scaling up clean energy, we have to introduce this innovative policy and adapted flexible policy. So they create enabling business environment, not only in laws, but also for business, for commercial aspects. Private sector have to be able to engage and also to facilitate, to introduce those new technology and innovate. So that is, I think, very important. We have, this innovation, and we have also the skills. We have also to open our universities to those new technologies and have, the required engineers and technicians who will, work in the ground. So enabling business environment and enabling innovation are key to accelerate this energy, clean energy uptake. So for policy, public authorities are pointed out, municipality also local authorities, so they have the role to come up with stakeholders. We have to, have this inclusive approach, working in the sector. They have to be approach and
Dr. Mostafa.
be also engaged in this. It's my final slide.
Okay.
The workforce and the private sector, as they start, the Saudi Arabia, so this ESCOs, they are willing to engage in building, so they can provide technology, they can provide also finance. That is, I think, very important. And for example, in Dubai with this Shams program, we have more than 20,000 villas that have been, installed with PV systems. And of course, the EU-GCC Clean Energy Network stand ready to cooperate with the GCC and the EU stakeholders for a sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mostafa, for your presentation and talking about the green energy and what are the suggested solutions, what are the expected challenges, and this we'll discuss it during the discussion panel. Thank you, Dr. Mostafa, and now we'll move to our the fifth speaker in this session, Mr. Adolfo Barrero. He is chair of the Smart Cities Committee at METEC. Also, he's a co-founder for Cactus and Smart Cities and Energy Efficiency Consultant. He will talk to us about the sustainable assets in cities and territories. We're glad to have Mr. Adolfo, and the floor is yours. You can start your presentation, Mr. Adolfo.
Okay, thank you very much, Salim. It's very nice to be with you and all this panel that is so interesting, that have enumerated some of the things that I have in my presentation. So I'm not going to insist in many of them, but I have some solutions, I think, in the last thing that Mr. Mostafa has been talking. So I think, sorry about this, you can see now.
Yes. Maybe
you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can see it. You can show it like this if you want, and you can move from the slide 1, slide 2 if you like. Okay, you can go, yeah.
It's now in big?
Yes, now it's perfect. Looks good.
Perfect. Okay. So as an introduction, I'm going to center in the concepts about the smart cities, smart territories. That was the enhancement that we have been introducing for the last 3 years here in Spain to the asset. Meaning assets can be a resort, can be a harbor, can be a smart campus. These kind of elements that has been objects that has a relationship with the smart city, but has not been taken in many times into consideration. So I'm going to make a focus on these smart assets. And I am going to use the concept that was exposed before about net zero smart assets. So what is that? This is, first of all, that it has to be zero greenhouse gas emissions. So it has no gas emissions at all, in CO2 mainly. Very much efficient in the energy consumption. That is going to be seen as one of the first aspects that to be taken into account. And it has to be a renewable energy producer itself. I mean, the total asset. Normally integrated by buildings. So we come back about the smart building concept. So which is the objective? Is to transform the asset, let's say the hotel, the campus of the university, the harbor, to become a reference of intelligence and sustainability by the means on using fully digital technologies and eliminating the consumption of external non-renewable sources. Okay, this is the object that we want to make for these assets. For making this, I'm going to introduce the concept of a consortium, because here we have a lot of disciplines, we will see later. So we need mainly a company with expertise in sustainable energy, an expert in digital technology to implement the smart applications in the asset. And the third element is a financing entity to invest in the process. We will see how we can do this. We have been talking before. It was in the first speaker, Nasser was talking about the standardization of the whole smart city. Smart city at the end has this. We can divide in many of the elements. Some of my previous speakers has been making some subdivision, but we have been talking today about the smart mobility. We have been talking about the smart water, smart environment, but there are many other aspects like smart sports or smart conference. If we're talking about campus, smart events, hospitality, irrigation, smart administration also. These are elements that we want to finance in this concept. And for making this, we come to one of the main aspects that we have in the Spanish ecosystems, which is the standardization of the smart city platform. In this case, we can apply the same technology, the same standardization, which is the UNE 178. In the case for interoperability, is the 178.104, which means that any of the new technologies that are going to be inserted in these projects are going to be interoperable between the platform and between each of the applications. What are the actions that we are taking into account for these net zero smart assets? First of all, we have the energy efficiency measures, which we have been talking about, is the cooling and heating, buildings isolation, efficient lighting, motor variators, energy losses identification, etc. This is the first and the initial of these projects, is taking into account the energy efficiency we can do before we go to renewable energy, or to use photovoltaic solar roof or the district heating, auto consumption, etc. Inside these assets, also we can go for electrical mobility. This is something interesting because we can go for motor sharing or green electricity and energy storage belonging to the electrical vehicle part. And coming to the digital, which is part of the image, we have an important concept that we have been developing for the last 4 years, which is the Iot Node. It is an element that makes the asset interoperable with the brain of the city. So the harbor, the station, the resort, whatever, is an element inside the city. So any of the things that has been doing, there are data that is going inside to the harbor or to the asset, but also the asset is going to inform the city. This is important, for example, making management of tourism in a city. If you have a harbor that is entering people to the city, you may know, if you have this concept of Iot Node, of what is the profile of the visitors of the city before they enter the city. This in the first concept of the smart city, it wasn't taken into account, but now we have some projects where the Iot Node is some element. So we have these data analytics that are inside the asset, or also in the brain in the city, or all the digital management and also the demand management, because we have information that is managed by the internal brain of the asset. How this has been done, I have seen on a slide before about the silo way of doing things. And this is introducing the concept of how a smart city project has been making by traditionally. Is by the client contracting the energy engineering, a system integrator, a company for maintenance, a financial entity for the financing necessities, an installer, and an energy provider. In this new way of doing things, using the consortium, we have the ESCO, the Energy Service Company concept inside, plus public funds that has been also mentioned before. In this case, the client only talks with one element, which is the consortium. A complex consortium, as we saw before, of several companies. And all the management that you see before doing by the client is substituted by the consortium. The consortium has two ways of financing the projects, mainly, which is not of course the energy part of the installation, which is mainly done by the energy savings part of this energy efficiency plus renewable energy, and also external stimulus that has been doing, at least here in Spain, we have from the central government, autonomous government, and also from the European Union, mainly in two ways, for the green economy and for the digital economy. So this kind of consortium can manage this kind of stimulus, which are they have an obligation of investment by the consortium before getting this money. So this is new way of doing this kind of projects is a must. You can say, at least here in the European Union. From the energy efficiency and management action, sorry, because this is in Spanish, but you can understand very clearly because of the drawings. You have seen the geothermy, electrical motors, quite efficiency nowadays through the speed variators, natural light, conducted, LEDs, of course, the part of renewable, the envelope of the building by solar filters or isolation, intelligent in parking lighting, also in the exterior, all the LED lighting, these recharging points also fed by the renewable energy, plus this part that you have here, that is the energy control center, we can say, which is the center, is the brain, we can say, and where all that data is managed and also interact with the brain of the city. In this kind of model, as you can see, the ESCO model, you may know, this is the consumption of the asset before the project has been developed. Once the project is on, there are savings, and some part of the savings of energy saving are passed directly to the customer, to the asset. The other one is paying the investment that has been done. So after the exploitation time, all the savings are translated to the asset. If we have also public funds, that is the case that I explained before, we can make and finance many, we can say 100% of the smart actions that we are doing inside the asset. So this is the figure for this kind of structure that we can make. From the point of view of planning, as I mentioned before, we have three main steps. One is main for the energy efficient part. Secondly, putting the renewable energy elements, and finally, all the intelligence and the management of the demand and the microgrid that is done inside the asset that is managed by this kind of control centers that are quite smart centers. For energy efficiency, well, we can see all the elements that we have been talking before. Renewable, at the end, I'm not going to insist, is the way of normally photovoltaic. Could be also geothermic, that is some cases employed in certain projects. And finally, all the energy resources connection with other buildings, connected with the brain of the city, all the management of the storage of the energies, etc. That has to be managed through these kind of control centers. We in this case, the complex management of using the electrical vehicle also as a part of the storage of the energy in a two ways mode, depending upon the cycles of the cost of the energy. That is also something that is managed by this energy management systems. Okay, for me, I stop here. Thank you very much, and I'll come back with the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Adolfo, for your presentations. We enjoyed the idea that you merge, the assets and the importance of it and how to manage it. Now I think it's time to move to our discussion panels for our speakers in the session one. We have like 10 minutes before we move to the second session. So we have only 2 minutes for each speaker to answer the questions. And sorry for that. We wish to have a longer time to enjoy the speech. For Mr. Nasser, you showed us the shiny visions of Kuwait toward the smart city, especially for the city of Saad al Abdullah, the south of Saad al Abdullah. And we know that Kuwait had a previous vision to have the green city for Al Mutla before that. And I knew that the public authority tried to do their best. But there is something that was missing, like the cooling district that is planned by you and your team to apply to the Al Mutla city. But after that, we hear it's cancelled or something else. Can you tell us what's the real challenges that you may face for the new projects, and what the reason that you didn't apply the cooling district for the Al Mutla city?
Yes, well, thank you very much for this excellent question. I think, when we, as planners, when we have planned Al Mutla city, we have allocated areas and for the district cooling. Afterwards, we made detailed feasibility studies regarding the usage and whether to use it or not. And because the city is what we call low density, and it turned out that actually it is for houses, and especially that are, our plots are 400-meter houses, the plots. So it's more costly and less energy sufficient to provide district cooling. That's why it's not economically viable to use the district cooling in the, let's say, the lower density areas. In the new cities, we have implemented it in the higher density, medium to high density area. This is where the visibility is, because it will require a lot of water and a lot of energy just to provide for longer distances. It's 100 square kilometers for Al Mutla. I think the challenge is that, first of all, there's a lot of different stakeholders, and how to put everybody in alignment, especially that there isn't a law that regulates it, or there isn't one entity that's in Kuwait that is, let's say, a smart city entity, and it has its own regulation. We are trying to champion this issue, and and there are some battles that we're winning, some battles we're not. But I think, to tie it up all together and not to, to take a lot of your time, going back to what Mr. Morten was saying is that, it just needs the decision makers to decide, for example, in the public authority, when you have decided to use renewable energy in the public facilities, that was the first decision when I was assigned as assistant undersecretary. And it was just a stake of the, a strike of a signature. It was and now it's a standard in every public facility. And again, back to what Mr. Adolfo was saying regarding the, the smart asset potential of and energy efficiency. We have done our due diligence and on all of our projects. And in Al-Mutla city only, we have saved around $7 billion US, and across our projects, 2.2 billion just of redesigning and using, those new specifications and so. So I think the challenge is that to convince the decision makers that, with the sheer size of the projects, there isn't a lot of cost. The cost is marginal. Well, not marginal. There are some costs, but it's not extremely expensive costs. And with those costs, if you look at if you do simple feasibilities, cost to benefit, you'll find out in a lot of the technologies that are a lot of return on the investment. And Masdar, for example, in Abu Dhabi, which is amazing, but because they aimed too high, and it was zero car, driverless cars, and so it turned out to be too expensive. That's why we are targeting the potential where we can use those smart or sustainable issues. And back to the urban regeneration of what Mr. Morten was saying, I really like what he was saying. And an example is that the old Kuwaiti souk, the old market, in the old days, it was all of the roads had, for example, cars. When they closed the roads and made it all pedestrian, there was an uproar by everybody that there will be, especially the markets in the middle of the stores in the middle of the market, that there will be no demand, nobody will come. And the opposite happened, which especially with our weather, we have very arid weather, but still people go and enjoy walking in those small alleys and without cars, and it became even better area than it used to be.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your answer, Dr. Engineer Nasser. And that takes us to Mr. Morten to talk about the achievement that they have made in Copenhagen to have the smart mobility. As the Engineer Nasser mentioned, is it applicable to apply it in Arab countries? Arab countries has, have different culture, hot climate. Also, can we become bicycle friendly by and why? If Mr. Morten give us his idea, especially the Arab countries, mainly the hot climate we have, also the lifestyle are different a little bit. Here you go, Mr. Morten.
Well, thank you very much for that question. There is nothing special to Copenhagen, nothing at all. Any city can do what Copenhagen has done. Any city can do what Utrecht or Amsterdam has done in the Netherlands. It's not in the genes, it's not in our water. It's simply a matter of choice, whether you want to be bicycle friendly, sustainable or not. Of course, there is a difference in climate and in weather, but on the other hand, all countries, all cities have their special obstacles in this. Copenhagen has a lot of wind. We are very close to the sea. And what we find here is, you can say, a climate where people have to take care of the weather in other circumstances. It may not be 30 or 40 degrees hot, but then it may be -5, -10. It may be rainy, snowy, with a lot of sleet. So all countries have its special conditions. And as we used to say in Danish, there is no such thing as bad weather. There is only bad clothing. So it's all about how we actually perform in this, under these conditions that we have. And I think that all cities can actually we shouldn't copy paste each other, but we can take what works the best in each of our cities and try to implement them in our own city. And as such, yes, you can have Singapore becoming bike friendly. They're working on that, even though they're a city with 30 degrees and very humid climate. I know Beirut in Lebanon has been trying to become bicycle friendly and is doing some transformation there. So yes, this can happen all over the world. And this is simply a matter of trying to do the right infrastructure and then conforming to the various conditions that we have. And I'd love the day when I can visit Doha, Kuwait, or any other city in the Arab countries and enjoy the great cities of the Arab countries on my bicycle and get around town. That would be a great day for sure.
We would love to have you visiting us one day in the future, and we welcome you. And sure, as you said, each country, each region has its speciality, its obstacles. So the objective is to have our goal to reach, the sustainable cities in our life and also in our community. Thank you, Mr. Morten. Now we'll move to Mr. Mohammed Al-Taani. Mohammed Al-Taani, he talked to us about the advantages to achieve the green economy to our countries. And since he is in the he's in the authority of renewable energy, Arab renewable energy, we would like to know who's the best in among the Arab countries moving toward the closer to the green economy, and who's moving further in the path of green economy. We know there is some good challenges and the races between some countries are moving better than the others. Can you tell us about your point of view? Who's going better in this issue? Your mic is off, Mr. Mohammed.
Yes, thank you again, and for all distinguished speakers around the world. We have a good competition between all Arab countries regarding the green economy because it's essential. And I think Gulf states, North Arab country, and our countries, all in Arab countries, are try to reach the green economy. I think there is something interesting to say regarding the habits of people, and you told us the spicy of life in the Arab countries that much more different, and we should have a good cooperation and coordination in our countries between public and the private sector, and to take care the advantage of civil society to reach our goals. A green economy, I think in the Arab country, we should also establish a good coordination between all Arab countries. Let's take example, for example, right now from Europe countries. They have a good contribution, and they have the same rules for doing everything. If I travel again for many conferences, many workshops in Europe, you can see, for example, gathering for scientific park, for smart cities, for everything. And I listen carefully to Dr. Nasser from Kuwait regarding the decision maker. It's similar in every Arab country. We have a committee. We should come back to them. And the individual, they have no sound to say anything. And how to reach the green economy without kind of have the smart management, it's not that easy. I want to mention regarding the best movement in King Saudi Arabia and in Kuwait and more in all Gulf state country regarding the green economy. And this might need not less than 20 years from now to reach what we have beyond us regarding the start before us for digitalization, as you already gathering us in our last webinar. And we should take care about the industry of renewable energy and the smart cities as we are planning in ARIC. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Now we have a question for Dr. Mostafa. Dr. Mostafa, you talked about the green energy in the cities, and one of the solutions you mentioned is the smart grid. It's very important to reach the success of renewable energy in the cities. What do you think about Arab electrical network? Is it in general applicable to be integrate, to be very effective connecting the renewable energy in the cities? And how about it, why don't we focus in the new cities, since we have a wide area, our countries are moving toward the new cities? Why don't we focus in the smarter grid to be established in the beginning for these cities? It's better than, do you think it's better than just shifting our electrical network, the traditional ones, toward the smarter grid? And that will
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, we need to answer. We need you to.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Engineer Simon, for this very interesting question. I think for the Arab cities, there are, as I mentioned, many challenges. So we have to screen and see for each city what is the current situation, what is needed to introduce smart cities. And then in general, I think for the old cities, I'm not sure that we can do it. That is, I think, like the retrofitting. We can do some improvements, but we cannot, implement the whole smart city or smart grid system. All the countries have a clear policy on this. They are thinking, they are preparing something, but still, because introducing something new in a city, it needs laws, it needs regulations. The utility, the distributed company, they have to be ready, and they have also to standardize all those aspects of techniques and instrument. Because they will deal with the providers, so they will deal with the producers, they will deal with the customers, and it needs a regulatory framework from the beginning. Some countries, for example, I know that's in also in Dubai. I think the first step, and this is very important, to have those smart devices. So preparing, the network for other improvements, and we have to go step by step and learn, because we cannot have all those things together in one project. For example, the first project.
Okay. Dr. Mostafa?
Because maybe the engineers, they are not pilots, and that is, I think, the way that we have. And also we have our neighbors in Europe. They started years ago to develop those smart technologies, and we have to maybe not to copy and paste Mr. Morten, they have, introduced those things with this integrated framework engaging the policymakers, engaging the finance people, engaging the engineers, all those stakeholders, as engineer Khraibet mentioned also, because dealing with those new and innovative things, it needs the effort of all the people. But I think the future is for me green and smart.
Thank you, Dr. Mostafa, and we hope so to achieve these targets. Now we have the last questions with Mr. Adolfo. Mr. Adolfo, you mentioned about the new business model, and you focus on the consortium, the importance of the consortium, and we heard about the cities in Spain. Can you tell us who's the leader in the smart cities application in Spain, and what's the strength area that they have?
Well, this is a very complicated question to answer if the Spanish people are hearing me. So I can say that we have a few that are doing pretty well now in this moment. No? But at opposite and many things for me, and is Malaga. Malaga has been at the very beginning in the smart city movement, and they have been making the biggest projects at the very beginning. I must say it could be the more engineered smart city. Barcelona, of course, is a big reference. Madrid, also the big cities in Spain are applying from the last time very much the smart city concept. The point is in what aspect they are making the best, no? Because we have other cities that are in the concept that we were discussing before of the conference about the smart destinations. In Spain, tourism is the first industry that we have. So this is our oil is the tourism. So and this industry has to be enhanced. Now what has been changed in the last year has been the way we see energy, the way we see mobility, the way we see the relationship with the citizen. And we put all the verticals in favor of the smart destination, of the tourism. And even all the funds that, as you remember in the conference 2 years ago, that we were telling about the main elements of the Spanish ecosystem. We have the standardization part, we have the networks of cities, we have the academy, and we have the industry that is represented by AMETIC, the ICT Spanish Association. Is pumped by these programs that have been issued in Spain. Nowadays, in the tourism industry that we want to talk about, that is the money has been put for the smart destinations, not exactly for exactly the cities or whatever. And in these aspects, the new concept of this that I was talking before about the consortium, that at the end, what is a consortium is a private public entity that is managing the smart city project through the earnings that the energy savings are made. And this is made also in the smart hotel concept that is fully related with the tourism industry.
Thank you, Mr. Adolfo, and we hope the best for the cities in Spain and all the world to reach the target of smart cities as also the sustainable cities. On behalf of Arab Union of Sustainable Development and Environment, I would like to thank you, all the speakers, for your valuable information and the presentation that you gave in the session, the first session. You all mentioned the importance of artificial intelligence. You all mentioned the importance of the renewable energy and the sustainable management of the waste. Also the innovations in the renewable energy. All these topics we will have in our second sessions with our esteemed speakers, Dr. Abdullah Nasser and Dr. Rami Shaheen, Mr. Robert Gold, and Dr. Mohammed Al-Haj, and also our friend Mr. Mohammed Minimni. In this, now we would like to say thank you, our speakers in the first session. We would like to meet you again in future and upcoming events soon. Thank you, and we'll see you later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. مع السلامة.
Thank you. مع السلامة.
السلام عليكم.
مع السلامة. We are happy to have you guys for our second sessions with let's